In this video, we'll cover TypeScript basics. So what exactly is TypeScript? Well, it's a language developed by Microsoft. The first release of it was in 2012. It's free and open source. TypeScript provides static typing support to JavaScript. So this helps you with IDE support in terms of code completion, debugging, and so on. TypeScript also adds support for object-oriented programming, such as classes, objects, inheritance, interfaces, and so on. So it really just makes it easier to use the JavaScript ecosystem or environment in a compiled fashion. So that's the real beauty of TypeScript. And you can get more details on TypeScript at the official website, TypeScriptLang.org. For Angular development, we can develop using various languages. So we can make use of JavaScript. It's the extremely popular programming language. You can also use ECMAScript, standardized version of JavaScript. So you'll see references such as ES6, ES9, and so on. There's also TypeScript, so it adds optional types to JavaScript. And you can even develop Angular apps in other languages such as Dart and so on. Now, TypeScript is the most popular language for Angular development, and I'll talk more about that later. So let's look at the relationships. So TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript and ECMAScript. So you have the core JavaScript, plain vanilla. Then you have ECMAScript, which is the standardized version of JavaScript. And then we have TypeScript. So this is where we add optional types to the JavaScript programming environment. And then you're probably wondering, okay, well, why do most developers use TypeScript? Why don't they use Dart or ECMAScript or just plain vanilla JavaScript? Well, TypeScript is a strongly typed language with compile time checking and IDE support. So for very large projects, this helps with increased developer productivity and efficiency. And also, the Angular framework itself is internally developed using TypeScript. Yep, that's right. So the Angular developers, they actually used TypeScript to build the Angular framework. And then also, when you see a lot of docs, online blogs, tutorials, and so on, they'll make use of TypeScript for their coding examples. So it's a really good idea to learn TypeScript if you're really serious about doing Angular development. Alrighty, so in this course, I'm going to focus on practical results. So this is really just an introduction to TypeScript development. It's not an A to Z reference. If you need a complete reference to TypeScript, I say look at the TypeScript documentation, and that's available at TypeScriptLang.org. But we'll cover enough practical information to help us build our given applications. Alrighty, so let's kind of look at the development process. So the first thing we'll do is we'll create our TypeScript code. Then we'll compile the code, and then we'll actually run the code. And this is a step-by-step process, but it's very high level. This is the basic process that you would take with any type of compiled programming language. Alrighty, so step one, creating a TypeScript code. So we create a text file. Our TypeScript files will have a .ts extension. So I have this file here called mydemo.ts. And then here I simply say console.log, hello world. It'll simply log a message to the actual console. And that's it. Very simple, very straightforward. And then with step two of compiling the code, so web browsers do not understand TypeScript natively. They can only understand JavaScript. So we somehow need to convert our TypeScript code over to JavaScript code. And this is known as transpiling. Okay, funny term there, transpiling. So we're translating / compiling. So we have our TypeScript code, right? mydemo.ts, and then we're going to convert it to JavaScript code, or we're going to transpile it to JavaScript code. And so we'll end up with this file called mydemo.js. So transpiling, we're translating / compiling. Alrighty, so a bit more here. So transpiling is accomplished with the tsc command. So our file here, mydemo.ts, we'll use the tsc command to actually transpile the code, and this will generate mydemo.js. That's the actual JavaScript code. So at our command line, we'll simply use tsc space the file name, mydemo.ts. So we give a reference to the TypeScript file, and then it'll actually generate the given JavaScript file, mydemo.js. And then to actually run the code, then we'll actually run the JavaScript code and we'll make use of the node command. So we're going to run the generated JavaScript code and we're going to run the .js file. So at the command line, we'll say node, and then we'll give a reference to the JavaScript code. So here I'll have node mydemo.js, and this will give us hello world because our file itself had console.log hello world. So the important thing here is that we're running the generated JavaScript code, the .js file. So you may wonder, well, why do we even compile? Well, the compiler is your friend. So the compiler or IDE can find errors at compilation time. So if I were to write some code here like console.log stuff hello world, so I just write the code here, tsc mydemo.ts, compiling the code here, then it'll tell me, hey, this property log stuff does not exist, blah, blah, blah. So this is very good. You want to find your errors earlier as opposed to regular JavaScript where you would only find the errors at runtime. So again, the compiler's your friend, help you find the errors early to save you a lot of time and headache. Alrighty, so these are the basics here. We're going to move into the next video. We'll dive into the IDE and we'll go ahead and write our first TypeScript program. So I'll see you in the next video.